Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video I'll be sharing with you how to cut this stylish princess dart underbust blouse with front lacing bar. So this dress is from Damike Stitches, and at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up. So let's dive right into today's video. So to start, on my pattern paper, if you notice, I marked few inches on top, so I want to use that part to explain the color of the dress. So I'll just use that as the starting point of my blouse. So from here is my shoulder to bust, here is my shoulder to underbust, here is my shoulder to waist, and here is my top length or blouse length. So I used 5 inches after my waistline, or you can go ahead to measure and use any measurement of your choice. Now I'll mark my shoulder divided by 2 plus half because this dress has a sleeve. I'll come down by 1 inch from this point, and I'll go ahead to connect to draw out my shoulder slope. So after I'm done doing this, you're going to find your chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5. Mine is 7 inches. I made a mark on that point and I drew out a straight line there. Next, I'll place my shoulder measurement back on my chest line and mark. That is my shoulder divided by 2 plus that's half, and I will connect. After connecting, I'll divide what I have here into 2 and I'll mark. Come out by ½ inch, and here I'll go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. Next, I'll just go ahead to connect it starting from the upper part and to that ½ inch, and I'll connect it to the chest line. After I'm done connecting that, you want to go ahead and mark your dart. I'll start by marking my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I'll mark this all the way to the lower part of the pattern. Place my ruler and I'll draw out a straight line from that point to the end. After I'm done drawing, I'll be marking my dart intake. So here I'll mark ½ inch, and on the other side I'll mark 1.5. So if you're a bit busty or you're on the plus size, you should use 1 inch on this side, and then on the other side use 2 inches because the bust is fuller by the side. So I'll place my ruler, connect from the bust to the under bust, and also connect to the other side of my pattern paper. So now I'll just go ahead and use my marker to connect from that point all the way to the under bust and to the waist and top length. So after I'm done marking this, I'm going to connect from that half point from my armhole, and I'll connect it to the bust after point. That, I'll be marking a dart intake of ½ inch on both sides, and I'll connect it back. So if you're plus size, you can also use 0.75 at that point. So after blending in, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline this to make it visible. So that's ½ inch on both sides, which is 1 inch. I'll extend it at the armhole and connect it back. So I'll just go in and I'll use my marker to outline the upper part. Next, I'll insert my body measurement. Here, I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4. So that 1 inch dart intake here, I'll replace it and then add my sewing allowance. Mark my under bust circumference divided by 4. Measure this dart intake, replace, and I'll add my sewing allowance. Here, I'll mark my waist circumference divided by 4. Whatever I have there, I'll take out ½ inch from it. Like my waist circumference is 28 divided by 4, I have 7. I marked 6.5. Then I measured the dart intake, replaced, and added my sewing allowance. So I wanted to snatch my waist a bit because of the lacing we have in front. It will help give you that snatched effect. So here, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, and add my sewing allowance. So go ahead and use any sewing allowance of your choice, and I'll go ahead to connect this all the way from the bust to the under bust, waist, and blouse length. After connecting, I'll go in with my marker and I'll outline the rest of my pattern. So next, you want to go in and mark your bust darts, and to find your bust dart is the difference between your shoulder to waist in front and your shoulder to waist at the back. Mine is 1.5 inches. My shoulder to waist in front is 17. My shoulder to waist at the back is 15.5. 17 minus 15 and a half, you have 1.5 inches. So I'll replace all these measurements on the other side of my pattern, and after that we'll just go ahead to cut it out. So at the side of the dress, go ahead and go up by 1.5 inches or 2 inches. So I forgot that when I was marking this out. After cutting this out, I'll go in and cut out this part of my pattern also, because I will need the center, and I will be using the center to cut out another piece which will be staying or will be at the center part of this dress. So now I'll just go ahead and mark a basic neckline of 3 by 3 inches that I will use as a guide for this pattern. So from my chest line, I'll go up by 1.5 inches or 2 inches depending on where you want the covering at the center to start. So now I'll place another pattern paper underneath it, and I'll go ahead to trace the side of the pattern paper, cut out the shape I have there till I get to that 1.5 inches after my chest line. So please, that 1.5 inches is not a standard. Go ahead to make use of 2 inches, 2.5, any measurement of your choice. This part is the part that will be in between the lacing in at the front part of the dress. So this is what I have, and I will keep this aside. So we'll start working for the center part of this dress. From the starting point of my pattern, I'll mark that same 3 inches neckline. So instead of using 3 by 3, I'll be using 3 by 1 or 3 by 1.5 inches for the neckline of this dress, because this dress has a collar. And I'll now go ahead to outline this, leaving the neckline for now. So from my neckline, I'll come in by 1.5 inches from the center of my pattern. You notice that there is a mark from where I folded my pattern. So I'm using 1.5 inches, and this 1.5 inches is not a standard. I'm just using it for the center. So at the lower part, I'll come down by ½ inch and I'll slant it down. Looking at what we have at the thumbnail, the lower part has like a little slant at the side, and I'll just go in and repeat the same process at the other side. Mark 1.5 inches on the pattern starting from the center. This is to create space for the lacing at the center of the dress. So if you have a bigger bust pan, you have much room to create more lacing area in front. And I'll also come down by ½ inch here, and I will connect or slant it down. So after this, I'll just go ahead to outline this part. So next, you want to go ahead and outline the pattern to make it more visible. So now, coming down to this pattern, I'll connect slightly from the neckline, and for this part, I'll be using 1 inch for the part that has the eyelets on it. So this part, you can use 1.5 inches. That is if you have a bigger bust pan. My nipple to nipple is 7 inches divided by 2. I have 3.5, so I don't have much space at the center of my pattern, so I'm just trying to make use of what I have. So I marked that 1 inch all the way from the upper part, and I will also extend it to the lower part. So you notice that because of the ½ inch we marked at the lower part of the dress, the other 1 inch I'm marking is not too straight, it is sloped down. So you can notice that also on the dress. So after this, I'll just go ahead and continue connecting my pattern. After that, I'll go in with my marker, and at this point, if you haven't yet subscribed, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and leave your comments at the comment section. So if you notice on this part, the space we have from that point is a bit small, which we also have at this point at the underbust of the dress. The upper part, I marked out that 1 inch or 1.5 inches above our chest line, and at the lower part, you notice that that part also did not cut across the center. You can use 1 inch or 2 inches at that point. So I'll just cut this out now because I don't really need that part. I'll be replacing it with the other side. So to make this pattern look similar, I'll just go ahead and draw out the collar we have here. but this collar is actually attached to the dress after you're done cutting it out. But I'm just using it to cite an example so that this pattern will look familiar to what we have on the thumbnail of this dress. So if you notice, this is the collar. So for this collar now, you start your measurement all the way from the front to the back towards the zipper, and you also use the same measurement for the back. So for the collar, you can use 1.5 inches to 2 inches to cut that part out, and you're going to attach it to the dress probably after you're done sewing your dress. So after this, I'll just go ahead and I will cut out my pattern. So that part that we cut out earlier, I'll be using it to replace the pattern, and I'll be leaving this collar for now just to explain or make it look similar to the pattern. So now this is that side of the pattern that we cut out. You'll be replacing it to the center. So now go ahead to cut this out because you'll be cutting it in several pieces, and also your underbust, you're going to cut it and you also rejoin. So I'll just do a brief explanation also on how to join that. So I'll just go ahead and I'll cut out this part of the dress, because if you notice on the dress, it was actually cut out and replaced on the dress. So I'll go ahead and also cut out the other side of the pattern. So after cutting this, I'll go ahead and I will cut the underbust part, and also remember to blend in your dart. So for this, you're going to be joining this piece together, and you're going to also turn it with your lining when you're done turning it. So for the center piece, you're going to turn it up with your lining. Then after that, you place it on it this way. Let the underbust part and the other part of your pattern match. You're going to top stitch, repeat it at the other side. So now to join this side, you're going to join it as one piece. After that, place it and join with 1/2 inch. But before joining this with 1/2 inch, you're going to also turn it up or join the lining at the lower part, so that after stitching, you will now use your lining to wrap it at the other side. So I don't know if I make sense with this, but if you have any question considering this part, please leave it at the comment section. So this is it for the front pattern, and I'll cut out this collar because this collar comes after you're done sewing the dress. I just used it for an explanation. So after this, we'll move over to the back pattern, and this is what I have. I've gone ahead to mark out all the basic measurements. This is the zipper line, and for the neckline of the back, I use 3 by 1 inch. That's my shoulder to waistline at the back, 15.5, and I added my blouse length of 5 inches also to the back. So now I'm going to go ahead to mark out my dart, which is my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I'll mark this. Go ahead to draw out a straight line connecting at this point. After I'm done connecting, I'll be marking a 1/2 inch dart intake on both sides. Come down by 1 inch from the bust, and I will be connecting this all the way up, and then connect this to the lower part this way. Now I'll mark my bust circumference divided by 4, and I'll add my sewing allowance. Use the waistline we used for the front, mark it, replace the dart intake, and add the sewing allowance. Mark your hip circumference divided by 4. After this, I'll just go ahead to place my curved drew, and I will connect this all the way to the lower part of this pattern. So after I'm done doing this, I'll just go ahead and mark 1/2 inch at the lower part and extend this for the bulginess at the back. So you can replace this by the side, or you can decide to leave it. The only difference is that the sewing allowance you have on this part, go ahead and mark your under bust measurements by the side, and then connect it to the waistline so that it will be matching with the under bust part of the dress in front. So I just drew this out to indicate that we have a collar at that back. So now I'll just go ahead and cut this out. So by the side of the dress, just like I mentioned in the front part, I forgot to cut out 1.5 inches or 2 inches by the side to give it a little curve. Go ahead to also do that at the lower part of your dress. So with this, we have come to the end of today's tutorial. If you find this very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and join us in our next video. Thanks.